My great-grandmother told me something, and I've never forgotten it. She says, don't take something you can't give back. You can't give a life back.
That was Tonya Jones, the sister of a deadly shooting victim from 2018. Her 44-year-old brother, Markell Jones, was shot and killed outside the Moda Center. The suspect, Robert James Jr., was sentenced today. Jones says he was found guilty of all charges, including murder. And at the time of the shooting, Markell's loved ones pleaded an end to gun violence. But as we've reported, Portland is on track for a record number of shootings this year. Katu's Frances Lynn is live for us tonight with more after speaking with Jones about gun violence. Frances?
She told me when she was growing up, just walking down the street wasn't a scary thing. But now there have been so many shootings, including Markell, who was shot and killed outside the Moda Center back in 2018. So now she's constantly worried about her kids and her grandkids every single day.
Markell Jones died too young. His sister says he was a family man, generous, loving, and funny.
He would text me all the time and tell me that he loved me.
She says although they won in the court of law, in reality, nobody won.
I was able to also talk to Robert James's mom while we were waiting for the verdict. And I looked at her and I told her, I said, so you know we both lose in the end.
3.5 years ago when Markell was shot and killed, Katu was told he had a troubled past, but loved ones pleaded to stop the gun violence.
We need to come together as a community and stop the killing.
But to this day, Portland is still seeing a record high number of killings.
Guns are so violent. I don't know how to explain it. It's so permanent. You leave such a huge aftermath when a person's life is taken like that. Taken, in any manner. It's not yours to take, first and foremost.
She hopes people will remember the pain of victims' families before they make a decision they can't take back.
When people talk about how when holidays come around in that empty chair, it's real. It's so real. We need to put the guns down. We need to all come to the table and start having conversations of like, what's really going on?
Washington County Sheriff's investigators are working to find out exactly how a person on their skateboard was killed at the intersection of TV Highway and Southwest 198th. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight for Katu News at 11. I'm Deborah Knapp.
And I'm Steve Dunn. Katu's Eric Mock was there at the scene shortly after that crash happened. He is the very latest on the investigation.
Yeah, Washington County deputies had this busy intersection here in Aloha shut down for several hours trying to piece together how the driver of this car ended up hitting and killing a person who was riding on their skateboard. Matt Stevenson says he used to ride his bike around TV Highway in Aloha all the time. But now?
I don't ride my bike around anymore because the traffic's so bad. And people don't pay attention to.
He says tonight's fatal crash here at the intersection with 198th Avenue is a good reminder of why he no longer rides here.
Yeah, it was really crazy. It's never shut down so long.
The Washington County Sheriff's Office says a person was hit and killed here while riding their skateboard. But they say the driver involved was fully cooperating and is not facing criminal charges at this time. But Stevenson, who lives just up the street from this intersection, says it makes him want to be even more cautious.
I'm extra careful in intersections for sure.
And Washington County Sheriff's Office says they're still trying to identify who was killed here at this intersection.
The Benton County school system was the first to defy Oregon's statewide masking orders. And while those orders are now optional, the repercussions of that defiance are being felt today. K2's Dan McCarthy reports on the fines, recalls, and lawsuits, as well as the next steps for the man responsible.
If I could go back, I would advise the board to take the same action that they took.
Speaking to us over Zoom, the man responsible for ALSE's defiance of mask orders is campaigning on the decision as a part of his run for Oregon governor.
The entire world has exonerated the actions of the school board and my actions as superintendent.
But the move may still come at an expensive cost for Mark Thielman's community. As we've reported, OSHA has levied a $40,000 fine for failing to adhere to the statewide guidance. In an ongoing appeal, the district blamed Thielman, who stepped down from his position in order to run for governor.
There seems to be a bit of a disconnect, at least from a public perception standpoint, of the reality of what you're saying in your campaign versus what the district is saying right now.
Well, I just explained the context of that, but we can go over it again. The lawyer's job is to try to get the district out of the fine. So, I was like, you guys can throw me under the bus all you want, so to speak. If it will help, I'm good with that. And that's what a leader does.
But Thielman stepped down from his position to run for governor, and shortly thereafter, 2 board members were recalled by voters, part of a petition that named that decision to defy statewide orders as a reason to remove them from office.
When people get all riled up in a mob, they tend to make really lousy decisions, and kind of like the one they just made to recall 2 very, very hardworking, very dutiful, and very committed board members.
It's a little confusing, though, because on one hand, you're saying that you represented a majority of the community in making that decision that you made, and then a majority of the community that voted, at least, removed 2 board members for making that decision.
Well, and again, the key is the majority of the community that voted. Okay. And in a tiny little election like that, it's a tiny number of votes. It's unfortunate that outcome landed the way it did. At the same time, the truth will continue to matriculate.
The district also had a lawsuit filed against it in March, and Mark Thielman was named in it, but not as a defendant. The lawsuit claims he was enabled to create a hostile work environment with illegal firing practices. Pending litigation, he wouldn't comment.